it's a wild subject because coming up, just financials in general, just for me, because I kind of got thrown into owning my own business and working for myself.
Right.
And I got thrown into this because I picked a camera up and I was good at it. So that's great. That's awesome.
Right.
But like, they don't teach you all the stuff on the back end, and school didn't teach me that either. So it's like I never really learned the right way to make your money make money type of situation.
Right.
So now you start looking into things like that because I'm gonna be 32 in August. I'm single, like to have a family in the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm thinking, how do you create generational wealth? How do you compound the money that you're making in a smart way where you don't lose it all?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm not going to buy Dogecoin. So you don't take these huge, crazy financial risks, but I'd like to own a house at some point.
Yep.
Maybe a house here, maybe a house in another state. Who the hell knows? But as we were mentioning before, you start looking at what $100,000 gets you.
Nothing.
Not only in just life,
Right.
but in a yearly annual salary.
It's crazy.
It's insane. I'm looking at markets of the housing in Huntington Village, let's say, in the Huntington area. What $700,000, $800,000 gets you? It's laughable. It's laughable.
Yeah.
You look at this, you're like, oh, so now I'm a carpenter too, and I'm an appliance guy because I'm gonna have to do all this
of those
shit
things, right.
by myself.
The island is also very much insulated from the rest of the country, though, in terms of real estate values. I mean, like if you want to buy in Nassau County, you're splurging. You know, you look at the contributing factors, school district,
Healthcare.
It's kind of night and day, but I mean, by proxy of where you're physically located, I get it. It's expensive, but
You start looking at other areas though, even Florida.
Yeah,
Let's
but
just give Florida as an example. Florida used to be pretty medium, middle of the road to be able to buy something really
now it's
nice.
out of control.
Oh, it's out of control.
I
It's
think
crazy.
another major insurer just left the other day.
It's out of control, and then you look at the healthcare system down there, and you go, okay, I'd rather be here.
Yeah, it's not awesome.
It's the healthcare system down there it sucks.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, well, this is why I live in New York, right? Because I've got a good school district. I've got good safety and so forth, and I also have good healthcare, right? So that's why I'm paying for that. But I pay through the nose.
Through the nose.
Through the nose.
Is it? And then you have to have that Libra scale. Is it worth it? Like, am I going to balance this out? What, is there another area that is more affordable that I'd be able to go, not only have a good quality of life, be able to actually rest a little bit because burnout's real for everybody in every industry, across everything. I talk a lot with creatives. I talk a lot of people in the fitness industry.
Yep.
And burnout's real for everybody across every single industry.
100%.
So it's like, you need that downtime. Am I really getting it in a New York, in a tri-state area? Well, yeah, okay, maybe I go on a vacation. But with that high-paced feel, it's like you feel like I'm laying on I had surgery last year.
Right.
Laying on my couch for a month trying to recover. And I'm sitting there just going, oh, man, it's another month. It's another month. Like you have that itch that you want to just keep going and get right back to it. And I think that's also a product of our environment, of where we are.
It is. This is a fast-paced environment, and you got to be in tune with it. You got to keep up with it. But if you move down south, right? Yeah, you're going to get a slower pace. You're also not going to have as many job opportunities, and then you have to give up. The healthcare side is where you're giving up quite a bit, right? Because you're not going to get the same healthcare you're going to get here. You're not going to get, for example, our inventor got stage 4, neck cancer, right?
Neck cancer.
Which was throat cancer.
Damn.
And NYU saved his life.
That's not true. Ian Parker saved his life. He's just too humble to admit it.
So we got him here, but I didn't tell NYU what to do. They did that.
Yeah,
that
but you got
part.
him here.
Yeah, we got him here. We got him here in the nick of time. But he was living down in Mexico.
Oh,
And,
damn.
He and I had a conversation. I say, listen, Dan, you gotta get your butt on a plane like today. He's like, well, give me a week. I'm like, I haven't seen you, but I hear your voice. I haven't seen you on a Zoom or anything like that. But it just sounds like this thing's getting worse. So you better get your butt on a plane.
Was it he's getting the closed off type sounding, or was it just
This thing looked like half an apple.
It's like a goiter popping out of his neck.
Oh, he actually had a tumor popping out.
Yeah.
Damn.
And now that thing when he got here was the size of a grapefruit, right? Now that thing is the size of a bean, right?
And it's controlled now.
Yeah.
It's the size of a bean right now.
Are they going to remove it, or are they just going to?
They're quite confident that he's going to come out, free.
Wow, amazing! Knock on wood.
So, it's been 2 months of treatment, the thing's shrunk. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So you look at the healthcare side of things. I can definitely understand that. Do you look at the schooling side?
Look at the school too. I mean, schooling, you may or may not be giving something up there depending on where you're going, but there's a lot more for kids to do here than there's going to be down there. So again, there's a give and take to all of that stuff. And that's where you, as you said, you got to kind of put it on a scale and go, okay, what am I comfortable with?
And that's life. That's in business too. I mean, there's 1,000,001 decisions that get made in a single day that you have to hit that scale and say, oh, well, is my time better spent doing this? Should we go with this type of a resource? Should we do this, that? And it kind of gets crazy.
Could you imagine, for example, Matt Vogel not having access to Peter Luger's?
Never.
Yeah. So
we
still got to do. We still got to do. We still got to do the Luger cast.
I honestly, if I got like Lyme disease or something, and I couldn't eat steak or whatever the subsequent problems were, just kill me.
Have you heard?
I don't
want to
live.
I know you know about it.
I know.
Lone Star tick.
Lone Star tick. Yep.
You get bit by the Lone Star tick.
Can't eat meat.
We're allergic to red meat.
Kill me.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
I'm done. I'm shot. Yeah.
I'm gonna go swim in the South Shore for a few. I'll get swept up by a shark. We'll be good.
Done.
That'd be it. That'd be a quick way.
Oh my god.
He might not want you because you don't have enough red meat in you.
Chills thinking about it.
Yeah. Did you order Force of Nature, by the way?
I did not. It's in my list. Haven't done it yet. Good.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
those little venison. I mean, first off,
You actually got to take a look. It's pretty.
The venison tomahawks, I had a couple people laughing because I put it on my story. So they're venison tomahawks, but they look big until you put your finger next to it because it's a venison. It's a little deer. It's a grass-fed deer. It's like the steak is this fucking big. Some of my friends commented on it. It really is.
All right, good.
Yeah, it really is. One of my buddies commented on it. He goes, "Yo, bro, you shouldn't have put your finger next to it because I poked the meat of it just to show like it was rare." Yeah. He goes, "You shouldn't have." I thought it was
or at least zoom in, right?
Get a smaller paper plate when you put it down. That way.
I said, I don't have my phone. It's over there. I said, don't worry about my little steak medallion thingy. Don't worry about it, bro.
Right. Take it next to a travel-sized deodorant. Just like make it.
Is my phone over there?
Travel-sized toothpaste.
Matt, grab my phone. Grab my phone. It's over there by the end.
This guy?
Yeah, I gotta just show you just to make you laugh.
Go for it.
Because it's hysterical. It looks so stupid. Yeah.
Amazing.
While I search this up, Mr. Ian Parker, welcome. I've heard nothing but amazing things about you from Mr. Vogel.
Hi.
Who has brought some amazing people into my life, and I appreciate that as always.
My pleasure.
My podcast is pretty diverse. I like to sit down and talk to anybody.
That's great.
And I like to just shoot the shit and learn new things and have people that tune into my stuff and my content learn new shit as well. Because
that's great.
It's a lot of stuff we don't know about.
Yes.
And there's some cool technologies that your company, Helixa, right?
Helixa.
That you guys do. And I have some general questions because I'm not very versed on the technology of what you guys do. Water deprivation, right?
Deposition.
Yep.
Water deposition.
Yep.
Yeah, I got it right there. So I have general questions, but I kind of want to, once we get into it, I just want to hear, just how this started and what got you into it.
So as a quick preface for your listeners, I get to meet a pretty interesting number of people in my travels, in my work, in my life, partnerships, strategic partnerships, etc. Ian is the smartest guy I know, hands down. And more importantly, the hardest working. So aside from blowing smoke up your ass, and I'll stop in a second, the reality is I've never seen somebody navigate through challenges and create solves for problems that I didn't even know existed the way Ian can. So listening to the story and understanding the history of this technology and Ian's, instrumental participation in co-developing the tech is nothing shy of amazing.
Well, thank you for having us on the show. Really appreciate that, and Matt, thanks for the kind words. I don't know if I would consider myself the smartest guy in the room at any given time, because what you find is that you would, especially in my position, you find yourself in a room with a lot of smart people at a lot of given times, and you find that collaborating with all of these very intelligent people. If you collaborate properly, you put things on a whiteboard, all of a sudden you see these great ideas come out. And it's about being open-minded. It's about asking questions about, what you don't know, as you're going to do today. Mm-hmm. And, it's about, getting that data and getting those answers and then starting to make decisions based on what what you're learning.
On the topic of your company, how did you get involved with, I guess, the foundation of it? What made you interested in? Did the technology come to you? Did you research it? Did you want to make a change? Like, how did Helixa? I'm pronouncing it right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make
yes,
sure. I
yes.
don't want to be like a dumbass and not pronouncing it the correct way. How did you get involved and decide that that's something that you wanted to jump into, the water deposition?
So when we started Helixa, that was back in really 2018, and the concept was I'd been involved in private equity and turnarounds prior to that. Worked with a lot of really incredible people along the way. So the idea was to create USCO, right? Create a company for us that's outside of the private equity venture capital realm, and put all these smart people in a room, equitize them, and start developing these technologies that can potentially change the world. We started with an idea. We knew we'd have to create technologies to do that. We found the water deposition technology, the patents for that down in Mexico. They were filed in Mexico by Daniel Lang, who is the inventor of the technology. He's an American, but he was living in the Yucatan.
What was he? I got to cut in and ask. So what was he do? He just decided to dip out and leave?
Just decided he wanted to live in the Yucatan.
Cool.
So he lived down there, and we met him along the way, and we said, okay, this is some pretty interesting technology. We knew enough about thermodynamics and to really sink our teeth into whether or not we thought this was a viable technology. It was still at concept mode, and we took it over back in really 2021, early 2021. The real knowledge transfer on the technology started in November 2021, and then that's when the real work began. And where we've gotten from November 2021 to today is taking it from the back of a napkin to betas getting ready to be deployed into the field.
That's wild. That must be an unbelievable feeling. Just to see everything conceptualized and then, oh yeah, we're going to start deploying things.
It's an amazing feeling. And you look at the work that's gone into it. Got an incredible group down in South Carolina, Allied Manufacturing, which is based out of Conway. We partnered up with them. We teamed up with them, and they did a lot of the heavy lifting on the development side. We also had a group in Spain that contributed to the development as well. And watching it get made, watching all of those iterations, thinking through all of those challenges and problems, having to go back and learn thermodynamics myself, go back and go, okay, well, wait a second. Let me talk to Dan, get all the information. Let me get the white papers. Let me read the white papers. Let me ask a lot of questions about what's in these white papers. Let me buy Thermodynamics for Dummies and read that too, right? Just every possible thing you can get your hands on, because my attitude on taking these type of technologies to market is that if you're in a leadership position and you're going to be, make decisions on both the product management side and the project management side, which I lean into both, then you got to know the details.
I'd argue that more people don't know the details, and that's why a lot of things go belly up, because they don't engulf themselves or embody the actual mission and the technology that they're going to be doing to have this mission come about to fruition. I could be wrong. I mean, you guys probably know more than I do in that terms.
Honestly, I think that's a universal truth, that the devil's in the details. Just sidebar, are you familiar with deposition?
No, we're going to get into it. I want to, yeah.
Yeah. So the process of deposition is essentially kind of like a mountaintop, is converting a vapor to a solid. So condensation is the process by turning a gas to a liquid. This is essentially zapping moisture out of the air and converting it to a solid, which is interesting because it makes our system the producer of arguably the cleanest water on Earth. I'll let you elaborate.
I would agree with that. So you can go the legacy technologies that people sometimes compare these to, which is completely different. You hear this term atmospheric water generation, and we are not an atmospheric water generator. Atmospheric water generation is basically, a glorified air conditioner, right? They're taking water vapor and condensing it, condensation, they're condensing it to a liquid. We're doing the exact opposite. We're taking water vapor and we're freezing it right out of the air. And that's the process that Matt's comparing to a mountaintop, because that's exactly what happens on a mountaintop. You've this large thermal frozen mass at the top of a mountain. Air blows over it. It freezes that water vapor right out of the air. It begins to pack on top of that mountain. As enough packs on top of that mountain, it pushes the rest down. And when it gets to a certain level on that mountain, all of a sudden it creates a stream and a river.
Yeah, it starts to liquefy and just drain out.
We took that process and put it in a box.
Crazy.
And patented it.
Yes.
That's some God shit. That's some God stuff right there.
Honestly,
That's cool.
this technology is arguably the most relevant discovery in human history, in my opinion. I really don't think that's unfair to say.
It has the ability to have a tremendous impact, because when you think about what it means, so atmospheric water generators have a big problem. The big problem is that they vary in yield depending on how the environment is, what the temperature and pressure is. We've taken that out of the equation. Deposition doesn't have that problem. So we can operate in a 2% relative humidity environment and a 99% relative humidity environment, and our yield's not going to change. So that means you can operate this right in the middle of the desert, because there's always absolute humidity in the desert. It just doesn't rain a lot, right? We can operate right there, and we're still going to produce the same 200 liters a day that we would in New York.
Now, mind you, that's on using a 1 horsepower motor, 6 kilowatts a day. That's a joke.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Very
you can put
low.
a solar panel the size of, a clipboard right on top of this thing and run it in the desert for years. It's insane.
So you said that deserts automatically have humidity. So you're talking about it can be a range from 1% to 99% humidity that the machine will be able to run on?
So
I'm thinking of like in Arizona that's super dry.
and it will absolutely operate there. We have betas going into the field there. When we think of humidity, we always think of relative humidity, and this is one of those things that we have to educate people on, because I needed to be educated on it myself. Right? I always thought humidity, okay, relative humidity. Relative humidity is a derivative of absolute humidity. So it's telling you is how much absolute humidity can be held in the atmosphere at a given temperature and pressure. That's all it's telling you. So if it's at 99%, it's all going to come down and fall on your head, right? That's going to rain. If it's at 2%, it's not going to rain. But the absolute humidity stays constant. So that there's always going to be 1 to 1.5% absolute humidity in our atmosphere, in terms of total atmospheric gases.
Otherwise, the atmosphere would be completely different composition.
That's right.
Okay.
And I've actually had investment bankers ask me, well, what happens if absolute humidity goes to zero? And it's like, well, don't worry about it, because we're all screwed.
Yeah,
right?
so
Right.
we're all, it's just like if the globe stops spinning.
Exactly.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I'm hitting that wall fast as shit. It's over.
That's it. So, relative humidity becomes part of the equation for atmospheric water generators. It is not part of our equation. So that's what makes it unique, is we're not going to vary with the environment.
So with respect to cleanliness, if you look at a TDS meter, total dissolved solids, right?
Yes.
And you measure
my
it,
water to see how many TDSs it has.
well, should get one of the, one of those pens that you carry around.
Yes, might get fanatical with
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure, I'm
so
sure.
yeah, so Ian educated me on this subject, and I find it fascinating. So what's interesting is if you open like a bottle of Aquafina, right? You're at what, like 0.02 parts per million or something like that, to essentially measure the cleanliness of that water. If you're measuring tap water, you're like at 0.09, not the cleanest, maybe minerals, maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, when you insert a TDS meter into a cup of this water, you're like 0.001 parts per million. It's arguably the cleanest water on the planet, and the reason being the microbials don't have a chance to attach to the water molecules in its liquid state, because it's not a liquid. It's going straight from a vapor to a solid. So immediately you're eliminating any harm that can be introduced to a said water molecule. And until it melts and dissolves, that's where you get your clean water.
Yeah, so let me interject for 1 second, and I'll let you say. So when I think of something like that, now my initial thought is going to be, what about pollutants in the air?
That's a great question. So we're hearing a lot about forever chemicals right now. We're hearing a lot about PFAS, right, and those type of things in our food supply, in our water supply. It's also in the air around us, right?
More than we think.
As Matt was saying, when water is in vapor form, it's moving so fast that nothing can attach to it. So when you freeze it, you're isolating the molecule. When you condense it, you're not, right? You're allowing other things to enter into that condensation, right? But when you freeze it, you're isolating the molecule. So nothing can attach to it. So when we test our water comes out completely pure without a filter, right? You're going to want to filter it over time because you don't know what's going to happen in the collection unit over time, right? There might be some dirt, some dirt and some debris that gets in there over time. But from a microbial standpoint, no microbials can attach to it.
So I've always filtered my water. I've always been avid on doing that. And as my knowledge for water and the filtering processes has deepened, I've learned the difference between a purified water and like a spring water or a mountain water. And, you start learning that, maybe that bottle of Essentia is just filtered water, and they're selling you something that you could have done in theory at your house, and you're just paying top dollar for it, the bottling process of it.
That's right.
The other thing that I've learned is that when I filter my water from my faucet, I use the zero filter, which actually I want to ask you better filter, because I'm sure you at this point you know what the best way to filter your water at a home level is. I have to remineralize it, and a lot of people don't know that. So a lot of people don't know, like I put trace mineral drops back into my water to add the sodium, the potassium, all the things that have been stripped out of it because I wanted all the bad stuff out. But now I need the actual good stuff, so this way it doesn't go through me and leach out of my system those things as it goes through my body.
Sure.
So when I think of stuff like this, there's going to be no electrolytes essentially from the vapor, if I'm correct in understanding that.
That's right.
So now, would you suggest a remineralization of the water? I know we're probably looking at the technology at a home level right now, and it's on a greater scale than that. It's on a people don't have water and they need it in an area that has no machines that are able to do this, and that's why we're bringing this technology in. But I just wanted to get your understanding on that side of things, the electrolytes of it, because TDSs aren't always bad because they have the electrolytes in it, but like when it's estrogenics and all these other things that are added into the water supply, that's when you got to worry about it.
Yeah. So in terms of remineralization, there are simple filters you can buy to do that, and we do recommend that you remineralize the water. It'll also add a charge to the water too, right? So those are things that can be attached very simply to by the end user, or can be designed for we can design it for that purpose. But it's just a simple attachment to the exit water. And those things exist today. They don't need to be invented as
it's as simple as a drop.
Exactly.
It's a drop into your water.
I mean, you could get the filter that I don't remember how many liters it lasts for, but that there's filters that that last for tens of thousands of liters.
So the issue I always have is the home filters only like, it'll last you 30 gallons for the month. It's like, damn, I drink a gallon a day. It's like, oh man,
that's not a lot.
On a grander scale, the thing that most people also aren't considering is the cost. So like to your point, you're right. From a residential standpoint, there's an inherent cost to getting mineralized, filtered, clean, healthy water. From a 30,000-foot view, you've got some primary markets which are humanitarian. Obviously, you got people who can't get clean water across the globe. You got commercial. You have farms that are experiencing drought. You got, look at Napa Valley. You got wineries are shutting down left and right because they can't actually hydrate their crop. And then you got municipal, residential, et cetera. But when you break it down to residential, those third-party solutions are available and accessible everywhere. That comes down to customer preference, right? I don't know enough about it. I haven't experimented enough with water. I don't give a shit, personally. Like, energy drinks, sure. Scotch, bring it on. I don't know.
Still got your scotch if you want to mix the energy drink with the scotch.
I don't know shit about water other than like when I was a kid and I was thirsty, I drank from a hose. Where does that come from? What does that look like? I have no idea. What is the TDS meter going to say? I'm probably hurting myself, but who knows?
I'd beg to differ. I would say that back when we were kids, I would think that the water might have been cleaner than it is now.
I'm speculating, but I wouldn't
I'm speculating too. I mean, you can't go by facts because we never tested it back then versus now.
Yeah.
But I would assume that there was less stuff because I feel as though we're just seeing the monumentous wave of just chemicals
Yeah.
in everything.
Everything.
I mean, now the new thing is, well, if you want to be able to have kids, like check your boxers. Like, bro, I'm just trying to live without things killing
You
me.
know, speaking of forever chemicals, I just saw the movie, was it Dark Waters? I don't know if you saw that with Mark Ruffalo.
No.
And Tim Robbins, where they're talking about, I think it was called C8, Teflon.
Yep.
Teflon,
Oh,
how
yeah.
Teflon was put in everything.
Yep.
Like, and
Non-stick
more than
pans.
99% of the global population from, what was it, DuPont.
DuPont.
Right, DuPont. 99% of the global population has Teflon in our system.
Yes.
So
It's insane.
They take years and years to even remotely get out of your body.
If they do it all, I don't
And
know.
Don't get me.
That's
Don't,
crazy.
don't get me started on seed oils.
So what? It's
I have
interesting
known
he
nothing
brings
about
up
seed oils,
Teflon because as we were researching different ways to, the surface area that you want to collect this from becomes important because we don't want any contaminants on it. So put a lot of time and effort into making sure that we had a surface area that is going to remain clean and
Safe.
isn't gonna poison anybody. And we did some research on Teflon, and we called an unnamed company that, and we asked them about Teflon, and we told them what the purpose of it would be, and they said, "Yeah, don't use that." that was the exact words, right?
Isn't that scary? I mean, it's just unbelievable that something so widely used across a lot of different industries and media. It's just like, oh yeah, don't use that. It's like for what? Potential consumption? Like, what about the other things that we've been using it for?
Yeah, and continue to use it.
Continue to use it for. I mean, think about like a nonstick pan. How bad it is when and how I see one back when I was using nonstick pans. I don't use them anymore. I saw one scratch in that thing. I was throwing the pan out and getting a new one because you're leaching that stuff into your food.
Just drink your raw eggs like Rocky, and you don't have to fry.
I mean, yeah, and maybe I look like him too.
Yeah, maybe.
That was the other supplements. But it's like you think about that, like me, very anal about what I'm doing and my health and whatnot. Think about 99% of the rest of the United States.
Yep.
Yeah.
Families that can't afford to buy another pan.
Yeah.
Just because they throw that, they're like, is what it is. We got scratches on it. And they don't even have the thought process or the knowledge that could be leaching into their food. They assume it's
cancer
safe.
data certainly supports that.
But think about that too, right? You take that pan, you throw it out.
You're good. You're good.
You take that pan, you throw it out. It goes into a landfill.
Oh, that's
and
the
now
other
it
side.
leaches out into
Water supply.
over time. It's just leaching out to the water supply.
Yeah.
So
So what am I supposed to do? Just incinerate it? Like,
Pray.
It's like what is it?
Pray.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. We're our own worst advocates. It's
Yeah.
a lot of this shit. Like you try to be good and you try to do things right, and companies say they're going to do right by not filling landfills and making products that are biodegradable and whatnot. And exactly what you just pointed out. It's like, well, it's just going to go sit in a landfill anyway. Even if I hit the recycler, like I don't even know if I usually put it in the recycler. I don't even know if they know what to do with it. They probably throw it in a landfill.
So-
Can they recycle a pan?
I don't know.
So let's just think about, so the global aqueduct, right, is what we call the product. Let's think about the benefits of that, right? And the benefit here is, would you prefer that the politicians and the powers that be control your water supply?
No.
Or would you want control of your water supply? This puts the control of your water supply in your hands, right? And that's what it does. It also it also makes it free of any other contaminants that could be leaching out into the ground around you. So the global aqueduct has multiple benefits in addition to just creating water where you may need it, but it has additional benefits. It's PFAS free. It gives you control over your water supply so that you don't run into a problem like Rio Verde foothills where Scottsdale, Arizona went, hey, you know what? We need more water for our golf courses, so we're shutting you off, right? Now, if they had the global aqueduct, they would be in control of their water supply. And no politician could tell them, hey, by the way, you got to turn off the global aqueduct. Well, it's mine. I'm getting it from the air. And this water vapor in the air around us is a constant supply. It evaporates every day. As soon as we take some out of the air, it fills right back in, right? That's just the way our atmosphere works. So we're tapping the most unlimited supply of water that we have.
What is it like? It was like 30 quadrillion.
34 quadrillion gallons of water exist in our atmosphere at any given moment.
That's on the planet.
Yeah.
Yep. And that just floats around us, right?
And theoretically, no one's tapping into it. No one's utilizing it. Now, what happens if we have all of these systems all over the world and we start pulling from it at a mass amount? I'm talking very futuristic, obviously.
You couldn't pull enough water out of the atmosphere to make a difference.
Okay.
And as you pull it out of the water, it actually, more water evaporates, goes back up into the atmosphere. It just keeps replenishing itself. So it's going to stay in balance.
It's an infinite combo.
Yeah.
So I call that when I play Magic the Gathering.
Infinite combo.
Infinite combo.
Interesting factoid on that. When I ask people what's the most powerful greenhouse gas we have in our atmosphere, they usually get that question wrong. Or they usually think it's carbon, but it's not. It's actually water vapor. That is the most powerful greenhouse gas we have. So when you think about what happens, as we put more carbon into the air, we're warming up our planet, we're insulating our planet, that's creating more evaporation from the oceans, pushing more water up into the air, right? That's further warming our planet. And it's causing the water vapor, like there's still the same amount of water vapor. We see rivers and lakes drying up, but the water vapor is just moving on us. It's not that, that there's not enough water in the atmosphere. It's moving differently now. And what this allows us to do is make sure we're accessing it where we need it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So now let me get on a background conceptualization of the actual unit.
Yes.
So what were the intro thoughts? Because you had to have something that's obviously portable. You have to have something that's able to be moved around to areas that might not be able to have a lot of machinery and whatnot. So what were the intro thoughts? How big? What? How much stuff needed to be, I guess, put into it? What does it look like? Like things like that, I guess, are the questions that I have right out the gate.
Think of something that is, the size of a refrigerator on its side, or a large refrigerator on its side. That's kind of the shape of the machine. The reason we went with a design for 200 liters a day was, as we started to talk to people about the problems that are out there, especially the NGO world, what you find is that in a developing country, they'll create a large water source, but they don't have the infrastructure to get it out. So now you have women and children walking miles and miles a day to go get that water and bring it home. And they just the human beings become the women and children become part of the water infrastructure. So we went, well, wait a second, we don't want to build a big one. Because if we build a big one, then we have the same problem where we have to build out all this infrastructure to get it out. Mm-hmm. So let's build a smaller one where we can provide a decentralized solution to the marketplace that allows these individual communities to control their water supply. So that's why we chose to make it smaller as opposed to larger first. Call it democratization of water, cool. Right?
I like that.
So that was why we chose to do it that way, and that was the initial thought. In terms of how we actually cool the system, you're looking at a single vapor compression cycle. So things that we can train local populations to work on, things that are simple to work on. We can certify people very quickly, and you can find these parts all over the world. So we made sure that it was. There are other ways to do it, which we will get into. Maybe a year or two from now, we'll come back on the show and talk about some really cool stuff.
Anytime you want, doors open.
I appreciate that.
For real.
But right now, this made for the fastest commercialization because these parts are readily commercially available. So we built it in a way that can allow us to commercialize quickly and allow us to get it out to these communities in a democratized way.
And Matt said it's a 1 horsepower engine?
Motor.
So it's run off gasoline?
It's a compressor.
It's
It's a compressor. So it's running off electric.
Standard 120 line.
So 120 line or solar, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, that's an easy fix.
That's an easy rig up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we built it that way so that you could use, a simple 110, right? It probably should have a, its own individual outlet because you don't want to trip a breaker on something as important as water, right? You want it to be, I'd advise that it be on its own separate breaker. That's sort of a critical, all of a sudden that becomes a critical piece of equipment for you. Yeah. So you don't want that one going down because, you plugged your toothbrush into your bathroom.
Oh,
right?
man.
That would be bad, right? Happens to us at home sometimes. It's like my wife plugs in the hair dryer, and it's like, well, the lights don't work on upstairs. It's like, well, yeah, because you got to hit the reset button.
It's crazy.
right
Either way, you have spirits or everything just went dead.
Exactly.
Spirits are fucking with us again.
So, it's been designed to be, to be easy to install and easy to use.
Fun fact, the system generates the lowest cost per liter on the planet. That is a fair statement to make. So if you think about the actual cost of water, just commercially, personally, commercially, the costs are sky high. The fact that this is not just affordable, but it's the cheapest solution and the cleanest solution out there. Because again, third-party factors to yield the kind of water experience you want as a general consumer, that's on the residential side. That market's the last one to be accommodated. You got to go humanitarian, then you go commercial, and you solve the world's problems. But you do it at the lowest cost per liter on the planet. It's nothing shy of extraordinary.
That's right. And it also has military applications too. Like for example, one of our key advisors, Chris Miller, former Secretary of Defense of the United States, he's a Green Beret as well, right? He was one of those people riding horseback into Afghanistan.
You saw the movie 12 Strong with Chris Hemsworth?
To be honest with you, I know the movie. I just haven't seen it yet.
This is him.
But it's
the
him.
character is basically
Crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, Chris has significant experience, in the field, in Afghanistan, Iraq. What this means for our military to be able to, when you think about supply chain, when you think about moving in these arid environments, water is always a problem. And a lot of times we're bringing that in, on large cargo, planes, right? And what does that do? It risks more lives because we have to bring it in that way. It slows the movement of our troops down, right? And we can actually solve a lot of those problems by just self-generating the water right there on the ground for them. So this has military applications as well.
We actually had a debate, and it actually wasn't even a debate. It was just us talking and thinking the same thing with my buddy Kerith. He was on the podcast a couple episodes ago. We were talking about who has the best water. And we were talking about Fiji water. And I'm like, I love Fiji water. And he goes, and he said, it's so clean. Yeah. Just taste it. But he said, think about the harvesting process of Fiji water and then to get it off the island and get it everywhere to commercially ship.
Crazy.
Although they're talking about being environmentally friendly and all this stuff, it's like, well, you got to get all that water off the island and get it out to the world. So now you're using ships, you're using planes, you're using all this stuff. So does that offset the...
Yeah, it's kind of like the electric car discussion, what's better, gas or electric, but then you got to extract all the cobalt from the earth in order to create
you're plugging it in and it's being run by factories with oil and it's like, okay, well, what am I doing?
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I only get 200 miles, so sick. Yeah. How much did I help myself and the environment?
Yeah. When you look at cost per liter, as Matt was saying, if you're at, let's say, anywhere from 1.5 to 3 cents per liter, right, of clean water produced on a daily basis, that is a cheap rate. That is freight that most people are going to be willing to pay for clean water on a daily basis. The municipalities, yes, they could do it for less, but they're all subsidized, right? You're going to get it less from a municipality, but you also might find yourself shut off, right? Some politician at some point in time might say, hey, by the way, you can't water your grass, you can't fill your pool, that you're not in control of your water supply. This is a small price to pay.
We see that.
To be able to...
we see that pretty often, especially California.
That's right.
It's pretty crazy to see that type of stuff, just basic human rights that you think that you're just not only due, but have access to. Living in the United States, it's like all of a sudden, well, you can't do that. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, water? What do you mean? Where do I live?
There's a lot of profit and control.
Well, that's what I like that you said, the democratization of the water supply. Yep. Yeah, because when you said, would you trust having government handling all of your water supply? My instant answer was absolutely not.
I mean, how many movies have we seen? It
never ends well.
Dystopian future. Never ends water's controlled. The population is dehydrated and dying and starving.
I've said it time and time again.
And this is the solution.
I've said it time and time again. It doesn't matter what side you lean. Doesn't matter who you believe in.
Right.
absolute power sometimes rules absolutely, and you got to watch that.
Yeah.
You got to cover your own, and I love stuff like that.
Look at this as an example, right? So Arizona's got a problem right now. They've got a water problem. They've had a water problem for a long time, right? They've never actually hit their sustainability goals ever. Right, it's not even. It's never going to happen, right? I mean, they're just sucking up way too much water. Plus, they're building golf courses all over the place, and it's like, okay, you're in the middle of the desert. So
my buddy Josh, I know you're listening, man. You're one of the problems, bro. You constantly golfing, you piece of shit. Oh my god, man, just ruining it for all of us.
With that said, I want to play 18 on your course.
Let's go.
We're playing on Monday, right?
Yeah. All right, we're out. Let's go. All right, Josh, we'll see you in a few.
So, Arizona made a proposal. This never actually made it through, but they proposed through the government of Arizona that the proposal was to build a desalination plant in Mexico with a 200-mile pipeline to get the water to Arizona.
It's ridiculous.
Which, by the way, the investors of that desal plant were going to be foreign investors.
Okay.
Nothing can go wrong with this. I mean, this is a great idea.
I'm gonna be.
You want to talk about great ideas?
I'm gonna be so transparent with everybody listening and anybody who is going to be viewing it because of you gentlemen that doesn't normally view my podcast. I shoot videos for a living. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a politician or anything like that. Sounds like a bad idea. Just throw it out there, just from basic common knowledge. That doesn't sound like something that sounds good.
We're going to put the Mexican government and a foreign investor in charge of the water supply of a major United States
horrible.
state.
Horrible.
That sounds like a national security issue to me, just on the surface. No, of course not. No, nothing can go wrong.
Who's making these decisions, man? Well, my dog can make better decisions. Like, what is going on?
You know what's interesting is you think about the lines that get blurred between private industry and politics, and they're really not too dissimilar. Mm-mm. And if there's a solution, even an expensive one, I can't imagine that it doesn't seem like a good idea at the time. But the fact that people are these same investors, these same decision makers aren't willing to put time, money, and resources into actual solving, or even just due diligence on the technology itself. Like, is there a better way in lieu of 200-mile long pipeline to acquire water? That's not even a Band-Aid.
No, that's a Band-Aid for them because they don't want to think about it in a 10-year period.
That's a prosthetic.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
that is fucking ridiculous.
It's just like, 10 years I'll be out of office. I don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
Right.
It's cool. Like,
somebody else's problem.
Yeah, someone else will deal with it, and then whoever else has to deal with it. It's like now what's leaching into the ground? How are we going to keep this infrastructure going? It's like, well, where'd the money come from? We didn't fund it ourselves. There's 1,000,001 problems with things like that, and they just. I don't know. It's almost like they're all sitting at a table. Anybody, not even politicians. Some of these people that create these ideas, sitting at a table with crayons and they're just like drawing shit. And they're like, "Oh, you know what? That sounds good.
Yeah.
Can we make a bill for this?"
You know what? You know it's unfortunate, but you're probably not far from the truth.
Oh,
I wouldn't
be
shocked to learn that 10% of our infrastructural spending budget was written on a cocktail napkin
with crayons.
With
crayons.
I would not be surprised.
and it could have come out of a kindergarten classroom.
Hey, Senator.
I mean, at a Carrabba's. At a Carrabba's.
Right, it's ridiculous.
Can I get more bread and crayons?
Right.
Crazy. What the fuck is going on? Who's running the shift?
So hence the reason that
go on.
You go to the source of that, right? Because we tried to reach out to politicians in Scottsdale and got no response.
Oh,
right? Shocking, right? I mean, look, apparently the desal plant in Mexico could get some airtime, but
just call them and tell them you're the foreign money on the line. Oh yeah. What?
Yeah.
So we went directly to the Rio Verde foothills and started knocking on doors and saying, "Hey, listen, you got a problem here. How much is it costing you?" They have water trucks being delivering them water every day. This is how they're flushing their toilets. Water trucks.
Damn.
Right? This is the United States of America, right? And this is not the only instance of it. It's one instance of many, and it's spreading, right? Especially in California, New Mexico, Arizona, you see these things happening. So we went directly to those people and we said, "Hey, look, do you want these politicians in charge of your water supply, or do you want to take control of it yourself?" And the answer is it's an easy answer. Right, the logic there is simple, and we have betas going into the field, and that's going to be a major market. Those politicians won't notice until all of a sudden they're like, "Oh wait, hold on, we've got a great idea. This is working over here. we're going to give you tax rebates for these. Right. That's when they'll take credit for it, is when they give out the tax rebates.
Well,
Right.
they'll act like the kings and queens.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll be like,
and by the way, I have no problem with that. It's your idea.
Yeah.
No problem.
Well, you just want to get the technology in people's hands so they can utilize it. That's really what your main priority, and that's the amazing.
So again,
primary
to
focus.
to Ian's credit, and again, this is going back. So Ian and I actually know each other about 7 years ago, right? Like we met 7 years ago. Got drunk at Absolutely Mario's for a month, totally forgot about it, and then linked up about a year ago. When he, invited me onto this project, which I thank you for very much, by the way. But he said something to me immediately that resonated with me at the beginning, which was, this is all about the baby, right? It's all about us code, but it's about the baby. We want to get this product into the hands of consumers as quickly but elegantly as possible, without getting suffocated by Big Brother. And the fact that, despite the technology actually working, like, you ever heard the expression, some of the best inventions have never seen the light of day.
Yep.
Why? Because you might be the greatest inventor of all time, but if you don't know how to file a patent application with the USPTO, you're shit out of luck. So you take a guy like Ian, who is literally every step of the way looking at the entire machine, the financial machine, the political machine, the operational machine, and making decisions in order to actually create a foothold into our any which one of these marketplaces, but make sure it's done right, is fucking challenging. And he does it like a champion. Like, I still don't understand how he navigates through the challenges that he does, but when you need to eyeball all the threats, assess, and strategically, like, navigate through these problems. Like, I've just never seen anybody build a company so strong, even in its infancy, because we're still in our infancy. We're right now about to launch. We're going to the production line in Q1, Q2, 2024, and to say that all of this has occurred from here to there, this is still step one. And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is, and this is just kind of general advice to entrepreneurs out there, right? Ask a lot of questions, right? Surround yourself with really good people. Ask a lot of questions, and make sure you're making informed decisions. And don't be afraid about making mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. I make mistakes. As I heard Jack Welch say one time, somebody asked him if he evaluates people on their batting average, how many times they get it right. And he said, no, I probably only get it right 51% of the time. And it's more important to me what you do when you get it wrong as opposed to how many times you get it right. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. When you do make a mistake, create a culture internally where people can raise their hand. As I tell people all the time internally in this company, if you make a mistake, don't hide it. The first thing I want you to do is come forward and go, hey, listen, I think I made a mistake. Or I made a mistake. Raise your hand. Let us know, right? And we will solve it together. We don't kick our players while they're on the ground, right? We go over there, we pick them up, we help them up, we start
mutual
moving
accountability, mutual respect,
extreme
right?
ownership.
Yeah.
That's like a Jocko thing. I read his book. I read some of his book. I have to finish it, but that's a big thing with him at the SEALs and everything like that. Just extreme ownership. Don't kick the bucket down the road, and it just makes things worse.
It just makes things worse.
Yeah.
So ask questions and make sure you create that culture inside, inside of your organization where you always have transparency into what's happening, right? Don't let people be afraid. If they're afraid to come forward, if they think that, there's this, the dictator paradox, right? That's a real thing in global and geopolitical politics, right? Dictators in the beginning, sometimes they're making very good decisions, but then somebody disagrees with them and they shoot them in the head, right? And before you know it, you only have people around you that are going to tell you what you want to hear. And at that point in time, you start making a lot of mistakes, right? And that's when the downfall happens. So you want people around you that are going to come forward and give you honest answers at any given moment in time, even if you disagree with them, right? But note it, right? And I'm not afraid to go back to people and say, hey, by the way, you were right about that. I made a decision here. I made a call, but you were right. Now, how do we get back to here, right? How do we go fix this together? And if you have that type of culture, that's how you solve all these problems that we're talking about here, patent filings and organizing inventors and engineers in the same room and making sure you're moving towards a common product goal, making sure that your project management is organized in a way that actually gets you to your goals. that's how you get there, right? But you need that transparency. And it doesn't happen if you're the guy sitting behind the desk pounding the table, right? Going, oh, you just screwed up, you're fired. That doesn't work. There has to be, people have to be unafraid, right? That's how innovation happens. You have to encourage them to be unafraid and have courage to make those to make those decisions and be empowered to make those decisions, and then support them when things go wrong.
Yeah, there's a whole hell of a lot of trial and error when it comes to this, not only business side of things, but life. And you have to be able to take the bumps, take the bruises when you get them, but you have to learn from it. And that's how you get to that next level. That's how you get stronger. That's in the gym. That's in everything. It's just like
everything.
It's a life analogy. It's just like that's just how you get better and you progress. But I couldn't agree more. If you have people around you that constantly coddle and say the things that you want to hear or don't challenge your thought process, this and that, that's how companies die. That's how people and countries die. That's how things become little problems to large problems. When I first started doing videos, it's very hard as a creative to take feedback from not only clients, but people. Like if I send a video out to a friend, hey, yo, what do you think? Like, you're nervous because this is somebody watching the art that you've made over X amount of days, X amount of weeks, X amount of months. So like when you initially do that showing and you get feedback and it's not what you thought it was going to be, it's hard to not let your ego take over and go, well, no, you're wrong for thinking that. Like, no, this is why I did it. It's like you have to be able to take that coat down and go, okay, I see where you're coming from. Let me see if maybe I can switch things up. Maybe that does make sense.
Right.
Then you trial and error. You do it. You go, oh shit, it does make sense.
That
That's
also
crazy.
requires a lot of practice. Not everybody has that innately. I think, you got to kind of be taught that. So it's funny. I was telling my salespeople the other day, like, you familiar with the two wolves parable? Did we ever talk about that? Like back at
maybe.
the CCP days?
Maybe.
So I use this like analogy. So in Native American mythology, there's something called the two wolves parable, right? Within each of us are two wolves, and they're constantly at war.
Yes,
the
I've
positivity
heard
wolf
this before,
and the
yep.
negativity wolf, right? And the negativity wolf is full of disdain and malice and hatred and maleficence or whatever you want to call it. And then the positivity wolf is full of love and benevolence. And which wolf wins? The one you feed.
Yep.
Right? And it's wise because it's Native American, right? It's
Yeah,
got to be, right?
it's
of
awesome.
course. Yeah.
It's tattooed on somebody too, so you know it's cool.
Yeah, of course. But when you think about it, just like a muscle, if you're doing 10 push-ups a day versus the guy who's doing 1,000 push-ups a day, who's got the bigger chest at the end of a month, the guy doing the 1,000. It's just like there's a lot of truth behind that. However, I don't know if people just innately have their the education themselves to do that exercise. I wonder where people learn to do that exercise. That in of itself is probably a larger conversation, but kind of circles back to the notion of education. I think a lot of people need better exposure, and I don't know where I was going with that, but it felt right. It felt right.
It felt right here too.
To add to that, and I think so. Peter Drucker, right, once said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast," and I think that goes to your point. If you don't create that culture internally, it doesn't matter what your strategy is. If people are not positive, people are not, are built with courage to go out and make those decisions and innovate. If they're afraid to come into your office and tell you what they think, it doesn't matter what your strategy is, because as Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you got to create that culture, and that's that positivity is part of it. We become corporate cheerleaders to a certain extent, right? I do. In my role as CEO, I have to be positive about things, even when they go wrong. I have to tell them, okay, look, it's okay. Yes, there's a problem. I'll give you an example. We started. So the concept here, I have a background in nutraceuticals, and we made some interesting nutraceuticals over the time. I was involved in a number of pretty big brands. And initially I put together a group from, came out of Metrics and EAS and Quest, right?
Familiar with all of them.
All of them, right? And these were all top guys and from all those places. And I said, look, we're going to build a technology company. But the way we're going to build the technology company is I'm going to start with the nutraceutical side, and we're going to do the CBD piece, right? And we're going to start with CBD. and we built, a CBD line, and we had, going into COVID, we had a lot of orders. I mean, tens of millions of dollars of orders going into early 2020. We were in the resets in some major retailers, right? We were going to have our own little set, which is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
When you get that little set, I mean, I don't care if it's 3 inches or 6 inches, but that's a big set for a little company. And then Donald Trump gets on TV and he says, okay, this thing is pretty bad. This COVID thing's pretty bad, and we're going to shut down all the airlines and all the travel to the United States. And I remember thinking to myself, that's not good.
Yeah.
Like this is new. I've never had to live this one.
How are we going to get? How are we going to get shit out?
It's such a tamed reaction. Well, that's not good.
That's not good.
See, I would
So got up in the morning, and we had investors who had already come in. We had technologies we were working on, but the idea was to take the cash flows from the nutraceutical side, and we're going to use that to support the technology side. Great strategy, and get up in the morning and start making some phone calls to the buyers. We're going to get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back to you. Speedway guy. We'll get back to you. Right? We'll maybe a couple of days from now. We're on track though. We're on track.
Rain check for a week.
Yeah. And then about 10 days later, millions of dollars worth of orders that took a year to build, wiped off the map.
Done.
Mm-hmm.
So call a meeting the next day. Board of directors is freaked out. Everybody's freaked out, and we go, okay, look, guys. We don't have that, so you're going to have to replace that part of the strategy, but we're never going to be a nutraceutical company. We're going to use that to build the tech. And the tech is already moving down a path here, right? We already identified what techs we want. We already have one in the healthcare space that's moving down the path. That's pretty well positioned for what's happening right now. So we're just going to pivot. And, these are things that happen. We just have to roll with the punches here. Nice and calm. We just started moving, right? And I like to compare, business to soccer. I played a lot of soccer in my life, right? And I was a very good soccer player. And in soccer, the one thing you don't want to do is stop the ball, right? The ball has to keep moving, right? You stop the ball, you're dead, right? That's when everybody swarms on top of you, right? I teach my daughter this all the time. Don't stop the
When
ball.
a slide tackle
right?
comes in from the back and you just wipe out.
Exactly. Just keep the ball moving. And sometimes that means it moves backwards. Sometimes it moves forward. And sometimes it's diagonal. And sometimes it's to the side. But it doesn't matter. Even if the ball's coming at me, when I trap the ball, I'm trapping it into space and it's still moving, right? No matter what, the ball's moving. So just keep the ball moving. In those situations where all of a sudden I'm in trouble a little bit, okay, just keep the ball moving. If we keep the ball moving, we're going to end up working towards the goal anyway. And that's a perfect example of, a crisis moment in this company that could have crushed a lot of companies. Like I could have just thrown up my hands the next day and went, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Right? But no, I know that if we're in that situation, we just have to keep moving. And if we keep moving, the opportunities will arise. You just have to have staying power. Similar analogy, right? If you get caught in a riptide and you get pulled offshore and you're a mile offshore, what's the first thing you don't do?
Surf.
You don't panic, right? You just don't panic, right? Stop, calmly get your bearings, right? Figure out where you are and stay afloat. And then once you're sure you're out of the riptide, start swimming back towards where you think the shore is, but stay afloat and don't exhaust yourself. And eventually, guess what happens? The guy in the jet ski comes out.
Finds you. Yeah.
Right? And he throws you something.
Love that guy on a
Right?
jet ski. Oh, man.
The guy,
Find me, baby. Find me.
But you got to stay afloat. If you sink to the bottom, he's not finding you.
No, he's not finding me.
So that's how you have to approach these things in business. That's what's made Helixa successful, is not panicking, having people on board that have been tested before.
Panic proof.
Yeah, we're panic proof. We've been, we've had the shellings happen before, so it's like, okay, yeah, I've heard those sounds before. I'm not afraid of that. I know what to do in this situation. Or maybe I don't know exactly what to do, but I know what direction to start moving in, right? And those are key, right, to solving these problems. And I think that's why Helixa has been, we're this pink sheet company, right, that has on its advisory board former congressmen, former state senators, former, Secretary of Defense of the United States, former executives from Fortune 500 companies. We trade under the symbol EMOR and nobody knows who we are, right? but we're not a pink sheet company. I tell people that all the time. We may be on the pink sheets, but we are not a pink sheet company. We got here by not panicking. We got here by being methodical and keeping our bearings at any given moment in time. And that's been key to getting a product done. And it's been key to moving this thing towards the New York Stock Exchange.
So that was actually going to be one of my questions. What was that like? Going from a private to publicly traded, was that obviously had its own challenges as well.
Yes.
So what was the thought process behind that?
So private companies, when you have there is reporting involved in public companies. So you're walking into a challenge when you do that. You have to be properly advised. We are well advised by law firms here in New York. Morton, Hock, and Hammeroff is one of those law firms. You need proper advice to make sure that you stay compliant on the public company side. Why did we move to a public company? Because we could create a currency, right? And that currency means something more than just, now I have something that people can look at and go, well, yeah, no, he's at 30 cents today, right? Or he's at, 40 cents today. I can do a deal with somebody, but I have a number on that sheet. That's not me putting that number on the sheet. Mm-hmm. It's the market putting a number on the sheet. And that allows for more deals to happen, right? It gives us more flexibility in creating deals and creating structures that align people's interest. So that was the purpose of it. And it's worked out pretty well.
And you find that a public trend where investors and people can see that's more useful than showing on a private side, here's a balance sheet type of situation?
It's definitely, for us it was.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I would recommend that
to everybody. Yeah, no, I'm just asking, in your situation, because it's a unique to you guys and what you guys were doing.
And how it helped us, accelerate the process with our strategy. It helped us a lot. Now, it came with a bunch of headaches, right?
Sure.
Because now we have reporting that we have to do every quarter. We have things that we have to do
under a microscope. Yeah.
And the calls
OTC
and whatnot. You have to have the shareholder calls and
that's right.
Yeah,
we have a shareholder meeting coming up, on 7/21, for example, right? And that's just something we have to do. So you are subjecting yourself to more regulatory, to more regulatory scrutiny and more hurdles. But we are not an SEC reporting company, so we're kind of like public company with training wheels right now. Okay. We're on OTC, so we have to do the alternative standards. The alternative standards are still standards that you have to hit on a regular basis.
It's still stringent.
We've been doing that for 4 years. Once we go to SEC, the standards are even higher, right? We have done things, though, to ensure that we're sort of going above and beyond the standards we have to hit today so that we're ready at any moment's notice to go right to the NYSE.
Practice for the big game.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Like you said, the training wheels, and they eventually they don't just come off, they fall off. And then it's like right into the game, right into the big game.
From like an investor's point of view, it's really interesting to evaluate the company where it is today because it is a pink sheet, stock, but there's a difference between like search and research, right? Anybody can pull up a laptop or a tablet, look up a ticker symbol, and make assumptions about their bid ask, their daily volume, their history, but not know what's going on behind the scenes. And without disclosing what's going on behind the scenes, it's pretty extraordinary, is all I'll say.
That's right.
But again, when you research this thing, so like for my, for your edification, I myself went down to South Carolina to look at the first beta unit in the facility. And I was doing due diligence for maybe 3, 4, 5 months before, Ian invited me down to look at this thing. And we opened it up and I pulled a little snowball off the thermal sheet and I ate it. Like I was watching this thing plugged into a standard electrical outlet making water. And I was watching the water drip. I opened up the sheet, grabbed that. He's like, yeah, isn't that the best water you ever tasted? Yeah, it is. And I was blown away. You can't find that information online. You can't experience that online. Right. So when you search, when you speculate, what are you going to find? You're going to find what's available. Obviously, behind the curtain, a lot more is happening, as we all know, in just day-to-day genuine life experience. But what's happening behind our curtain is about to be unveiled. and in a big way. So the company actually has, more than 85 million in order indications right now for version 1. And we'll obviously make improvements to the product as the years go on, kind of like similarity to that of the Apple iPhone. You've got software updates, you've got new phones, new versions, new bells and whistles. So this thing is in a constant state of evolution, but it's exciting, man.
Ground floor, literally. We're right here, and it's just...
you should come down with us to South Carolina to take a look at this thing. It is sick.
I know. I'll come down.
Yeah,
and you're coming down at the right time, because this is the one that's getting deployed into the field. Just a side note on that, right? Just want to say how happy I am for Dan Lang for getting better. He had throat cancer, and we got him into NYU, and that they've saved his life, right?
It's amazing.
He's gonna get to see his invention in the very near future, in the field.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, right? In September sometime, he's gonna see that first beta unit in the field.
And he was very close to not seeing that.
As an inventor, that must be an unbelievable feeling. That must be unreal to see what you've designed come, like, really think about, like, the first car, the first real automobile that was rolled off the line.
Yeah.
That feeling of just, wow, it's here, and now we get to make improvements and fine tune and tweak it even more.
If anybody deserves that feeling, it's Dan, because he's the sweetest guy you've ever met.
He's an amazing dude. We become friends over the years, not just colleagues but friends. And when we brought him up from Mexico, he had stage 4 throat cancer when we got him into NYU, and that was on March 27th, right? And that thing was the size of a grapefruit.
Of this year?
Of this year.
Yeah.
Damn.
It was the size of a grapefruit when he got here. And I said to Dan when he got here, I said, listen, brother, this is as much about medicine as it is about positive mental attitude. And you got to want this, right? But if you want it, I'm going to promise you, we're getting you to the right place. I'm going to promise you're going to see your beta in the field. So in September, he's going to be able to get to see that beta in the field.
Incredible.
Someone's got to have a camera on him when he actually sees it. Yeah, you got to have a camera right on him for right when you turn that thing on, and it just starts doing exactly what he envisioned it to do and created it to do. That's unbelievable. So now he lives up here full time?
He's up here. Yeah, he's going to be up here for quite some time.
Okay, cool. Good. Yeah, we'll keep him with the good health care. And
we need to keep him right where he is. He's in
he probably had cleaner food down there, but we got to keep him with the good health care.
Let me tell you something else, and this is just a shout out to NYU.
Maybe.
Yucatan, man.
Maybe.
Yeah, clean, man.
They did an amazing job.
Yeah.
That team at NYU, just an incredible job. Just not just the treatment itself, but walking him through each step of the treatment. I was in the room on many of those.
In everybody's ear, like, what are you doing? Where you go? When are we doing this?
Yeah. But that now you could backtrack and go back to culture of a company. How many CEOs? How many owners? How many founders? How many people are going to be doing that? You care for the person, but to what extent? Like, you actually feel like this is family, like this is real. Like, so not everyone's going to be like that. Not everyone's going to be that intent on making sure that their team is not only working and doing what they do best to help the company, but healthy, because that's important to everybody and everything.
That's right. And look, at this moment in time, right? He's at a certain point in time, when he comes back into full focus, right? When he's able to, because I told him, I said, look, right now we got this, right? Don't even think about this stuff right now. We got this. Right, I want you focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is get better.
He drew the wheel.
That's it.
He drew the wheel, designed everything. Now let us sculpt it while you rest up.
That's
add 3 more and make a car, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this much: when he comes back, there's so many good ideas in that brain of his that we're going to start to see more of those towards the end of the year, and his impact in the world's not finished yet.
So you see revisions, and you see obviously evolutions of this device. I would go to say, do you see different sized applications and smaller packages and whatnot to different areas that may be? So now goes back to the solar question. So obviously it's just fitting it out for it. But I'm thinking about people in remote areas that don't have, or just regular 120.
I mean, eventually you'll have, I'm sure, microwave size system, and it's really just proportionally drawing it to scale.
I'm trying to envision it and I can't. I'm trying to like
pull
think
up a picture of it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we were
Yeah, pull up a picture. I'll be right back.
Sure. I wasn't sure if we were going into that. Helix, Global Aqueduct. There it is. Let's see. Oh, okay. Is that it?
Let me see. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that.
Oh, and you got the little spout on the back.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
There's gonna be a couple coming out the side. That was one of the original.
Oh, there's one of the original renders
designs. But they're coming out the side now. But
it's probably easier than just on the bottom because then you have to have it propped up on something.
That's right.
Okay.
So that system is about. The system right now is about, let's call it 4.5 by 3.5 by about 5.5 feet tall.
Okay. So yeah, like you said,
not-
small fridge, nothing really.
Huge. No, it's not a huge footprint. But I would compare this one to, this is like the first cell phone ever built.
Yeah.
Right. This is the one you carry in a briefcase. Right. Only the cool kids have them, but they're only cool until the iPhone comes out. Right. Our iPhone version is not there yet. Right. And those are things that are happening in the background. We filed some additional provisional patents for those things, and we'll start working on them. But the goal right now was to get to minimum viable product. And there's another, maybe just a life lesson that I've learned over time. Right. And that is, for a product. So you don't let your engineers decide what the product looks like. Right. That's you have to make those decisions yourself.
Yeah. Right.
And you have to, because the engineers, at the end of the day, they want to keep doing what's best for the product. Right. They want to keep refining it. You have to determine as a product person what's important to you at that moment. What am I willing to give on? Right. And that's why project management and product management become two different things. Right. Because my project management will get adjusted by my product decisions, right? So if all of a sudden I see that we can't quite hit something, well, is it good enough right now for a minimum viable product? If it is, then let's check the box and move to the next thing. And don't get stuck on this. It's easy to get stuck on those things and get into what I like to call get ready mode, right? You don't want to be, paralysis by analysis is a real thing, right? You don't want to get stuck there. Right, you want to lay out your product features that you need, that get you the benefits that you're going to be able to sell, and you want to check those boxes one by one. And once you check them, don't go back. Don't go back until you're done with that first version or you're done with that minimum viable product. Once you're done with that and you have that pushed out the door, then you go back and you take a look at all those other things that ended up on the vision board and you recalibrate. But that's why we're here, right? Is that constant looking at, okay, well, how do we get to a product? How do we get to something I can sell? How do we get to, and I don't care if it's, nobody has anything like it. So nobody has any, let's pretend nobody has any cell phones out there. This is the first ever cell phone. Well, yeah, it's got a briefcase. You got to carry around with it. Okay. But that's okay because it doesn't exist anywhere else right now. Right. That's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until we just have that little thing that we carry around in our pocket.
Yeah.
Right?
If you're dying of thirst, you don't really care what this system looks like, and version 1 was just plugged into a wall with, styrofoam literally holding up components of the system.
Right.
They didn't paint it? Cool colors?
Sorry.
Bunch of bullshit. That's crazy. Nah, you know what? Keep the water. Keep it.
Right.
I'll try to find a different one. So it's funny that it's like, fuck this water. I love watching tech evolve.
Yes.
I worked at Apple for years. I love seeing new revisions of phones. I mean, I've jumped between Android, iOS. I like different things. But because of business, I've stuck with iOS because it's just easier for me. The AirDrop and editing on my Mac and whatnot. So the capabilities of it have just better suited for what I do. Mm-hmm. But it's funny, every year, they talk about the new revisions, the new phones. They go, oh, well, it's just like 2 or 3 more features than last year's. And this, that. So it's like exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
You have to innovate and make a product and stick to it. And then you can look at other revisions down the line. But if you're just making a product for a year and then all of a sudden you go, oh, well, we could add this feature that would be good. It's like, oh, shit. All right, well, now we scrap it and we go back to the drawing board. It's like, that's not what you can do. You can't do that shit.
That's right.
So you start listening to people and you go, they can't do that. They have to release these things in functional waves of the technology.
That's right. And when they're ready, right? So, and again, that's where the product person becomes very important here. And I sit in that role quite a bit. Right, where I go, okay, let's remember what we're selling here. We're selling benefits. The benefit here is we're producing water at a very low cost, right?
And you're going humanitarian first, which is exactly what you had said.
That's right. So that's the benefit we're selling. The features and how that happens we get stuck on them sometimes, especially as science people. Like my science brain can get stuck on features often, right? And I go, wait a second, hold on a second. Is that really important to the benefit that I'm selling right now? And those are the questions you constantly have to ask yourself to make sure that you're focusing on the benefits, right? Science people like to focus on features because features are cool, and those are things we get stuck on. But it's the benefits that are most important. And if I can check the boxes and get to this benefit that I'm going to sell, and I know I can sell that benefit, then I've got an exchange of value that I can propose to somebody.
And what sounds sexier than, hey, you want the cleanest, cheapest water on earth? We got you.
Got you.
Nothing.
That's right.
Nothing
sexy. Fuck Fiji.
Nothing sexier.
You don't got to
than
get
that.
anything from any island.
That's
we
right.
got you right here.
Right.
That's it.
No pollutants.
Nope.
Nothing. We're freezing it.
No pipelines.
Y'all like snow cones?
And you're in control of your water now, right? Not a politician.
He said it again. I love that. Yeah. Oh my God. That's like just, it hits a certain thing in my brain that just goes, I
You're
need
in
more
control
of
of your
that.
water, yeah.
That's right.
Control of my water because I want to be control of my food and everything. I don't want to have to rely on other people. You start going back to the more you see just from ulterior motives of human beings and in different industries, like you had said earlier, the more you see everybody's hand in each pot and doing different things and what benefits me versus like what benefits the actual consumers, you want to be in control of these things. You want to be the one that makes the decision. How clean is my water going to be? Like, I don't want to have to rely on somebody else to filter out my water when I know they're not doing a good job now.
Right.
That's right.
Scary.
That's right.
Oh, it's so scary. Oh, I hate it.
and that is, that. So when you think about selling benefits, right? And this is just, sort of marketing 101, right? I'm not selling features on this machine. How the water freezes inside the machine is something cool that Matt and I like to geek out on, right?
I like that too.
But it's not important. It's not the benefit we're selling. The benefit we're selling is the fact that we're actually producing water constantly and consistently wherever you want it, right? And you, as the consumer, can put that anywhere you want, and you now control your water supply. That's the benefit we're selling.
And like you said, like we've said a few times now, ground floor. This is the first anything. So it's like the sky is literally the limit. That's right. As long as the product that you're creating for this first run, especially, as long as it aligns with the mission statement of what you guys gotten, all of this together for, the years of development, all the struggles, everything that you're doing to bring this to market, as long as that checks the box for the mission statement and then it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. As far as impact, again, I can't not say this. Sorry for the double negative, but I truly believe that this technology may be the most significant in humankind. And I think the company has real potential, let alone the aspiration, to become the world's first $10 trillion company almost overnight because it's water. Who doesn't need water? Not just water, clean water.
How many days can we go without water? 3?
That's right.
Yeah,
I will say that I can't comment on stock price, but we are one of those.
I was waiting for some type of it's okay.
I will say this: we are one of those companies that we're at 30 cents or 40 cents today.
What was that ticker?
but we are one of those companies that you wake up one day and you go, wait. How did I miss that?
Yeah.
I thought they were at 30 or 40 cents. But we're one of those companies that you wake up one day and you go, hold on a second. When did that happen?
Right.
Right. Those events are coming. I certainly am not going to comment on overall market cap, but we are
I'm
at
just
a point.
speculating. Don't mind me.
There was the disclaimer, guys. So we're clear.
This is all speculative in nature.
Yes. And just like I've given some health advice, I'm not a doctor, so consult your normal physician.
Wait, you're not a doctor?
But
No.
Oh.
I click buttons and I just make videos and
But
things.
you make it look so good.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good.
But we are at a point where we're at that inflection point, from a public market standpoint, and the sky is the limit for us. I'm not sure how high the sky is, but we're gonna go test it.
We're told it's
Oh,
X
yeah.
amount high, but I've never seen it or been up there, so it could be higher. I have no idea.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you on a personal, like just a human level, without the companies and stuff like that. How does it feel? How does it feel to see all this come to fruition?
It's super cool to get up in the morning and look at my kids, right, and go, hey, you know what? I'm making the world a better place for them.
Actually,
Yeah,
when people
we're-
think they are and they're not, but you actually are.
There's real impact that's going to happen here, right? This is a technology that has real reach, real impact, and the things that we can collaborate on with other people to attach to this technology as a solution, right? Not just selling products, but creating other solutions off of it are, limitless, right? Because when you think about it, water becomes the basis for pretty much all the solutions you need in the world.
Right.
Life.
You're establishing longevity for the human race.
Life.
That's right.
Life.
So you think about vertical agriculture. We have a colleague of ours that we're talking to right now, and we're very close to reaching an agreement with for collaborating. He has some of the most fascinating vertical growing patents in the world, right? And what do you need to be able to take those vertical growing patents and the vertical growing tech and implement it in water stressed areas? You need to be able to create water. So now you think about the combination of those two things. Now I got water and I got food. So there's a lot of different things we can build off of this to not just make an impact with what we have, but continue making a bigger and bigger impact.
The gentleman he's talking about, by the way, is my good friend Chris Kaminsky, who owns Precision Cultivation Systems. So I just wanted to give him a shout out.
When you say vertical growing, I know it's not your specialty, but vertical growing, you mean just the agriculture in a high elevation, or just in actual just.
So his systems, in very layman's terms, can yield about 30 to 40% more plant growth across crop and agriculture in
Oh, you're talking about
many
scalability,
varieties
number-wise. Gotcha. Okay.
at, let's say, 60 to 70% of the duration of current growth. Right.
Yeah.
It's an impressive system.
So you have food, water, and then who we bringing in for air?
You.
Oh, I already told you, I'm not an engineer.
Go get schooled, bro.
I operate these cameras. I could do that.
we do have an added benefit that comes off of the machine that was kind of an aha moment, when we were creating it, right? So sometimes you create these things and you go, wait a second, that's kind of cool. Like I didn't see that one coming, but we gotta file some provisionals on this stuff. And the waste air that we have coming out of this is cold, dry air,
Refrigeration.
So when you think about that, now you're creating water, but you also have cold, dry air coming out of this. So there's some pretty cool stuff happening here that we can use to further benefit, sustainability, and sustainable living.
What are some of the emerging countries that you're looking to deploy these in for, I guess, beta testing?
So we're going to
if you can say
we're going to keep it close right now.
Okay, so you're going to keep it internal to the States.
Not just the States. We're also we're going to do something in the Caribbean as well, because there are reasons that I would like to test down in the Caribbean, in terms of absolute humidity. But they're not to get too sciencey, but there's reasons I'd want that in sort of the initial tests.
Can you elaborate on the science?
Sure. So when you have evaporation in the air, the water vapor in our air comes from evaporation primarily from the oceans. So if you have an island like the Caribbean, where you have the sun beating down on it all the time, you are in the highest point of evaporation, right? So a lot of evaporation that comes off of the oceans comes from those type of environments. So they're sitting in evaporation central. When you sit in evaporation central, that means your absolute humidity levels are going to go up, right? And when your absolute humidity levels go up, the more absolute humidity I'm pushing through the system, the more water I get. So the question is, how much more water do you get, in a, let's call it an Arizona environment?
It's essentially climate and altitude, right?
Climate, altitude, altitude will have a little bit to do with it as well. Yeah. But the primary issue is going to be, how much water vapor mass is in the air, right?
And you said that currently it's 200 liters a day is what your system will yield.
Yes,
and that's under standard.
That's based on if we put it in Arizona.
Okay.
So the question is, what's the range of that if I put it in, let's say, St. Martin?
Will it stress the system out, or will it just create as it goes?
Just create more.
Okay.
Yeah. It just creates more mass, right? There's more. Think about water vapor.
I wasn't sure if that's all it could handle as a system, but theoretically, it's infinitely scalable on how much it can do. It just depends on the environment.
It depends on how much. So talking about mass, right? It depends on how much water vapor mass we're putting through the system, right? So it's kind of like, if you're eating protein to grow muscles, right? Depends on how much protein you're eating, right? So how much protein mass there is, right? Well, same with the system, right? How much water I'm creating depends on how much water vapor mass I'm putting through the system.
Gotcha.
So if I'm at 1% water vapor mass in Arizona, but I'm at 4% water vapor mass with the same airflow in St. Martin, theoretically, I should be 4 times the amount, right? But the question is, how much? Right.
And then it becomes I guess one of the struggles becomes keeping up with the flow of how much it's going to be producing. I mean, what do you have to do? You have to hook that up to a system that has a large aquifer or something that captures it?
Large cistern. Yeah.
Okay.
Some sort of large cistern, stainless steel cistern is probably the best. That thing will last for, 50 years.
Okay.
Right. Without microbials being built into it.
Yeah, because then you have to worry about buildup and whatnot as it keeps going through and through and through.
Yeah. Stainless steel cistern is probably the best way to go.
Okay.
On those type of things. But that's primarily what they use in the islands anyway.
And now are we taking this from that stainless steel cistern, or we don't have to filter anything? Do you have to worry about anything leaching out from the stainless steel, introducing anything?
You wouldn't have to do much filtration. I would never recommend that you don't do any, right? But I mean, small, a simple filter is all you're going to need, right? You'd want to have that safety redundancy there anyway. The water coming off of off of that sheet, right, off of the harvesting area is going to be perfectly pure. Now, could there be something that happens in between where it gets to the cup that you're drinking out of? Well, that part, I don't know, right? There might be the potential for a small amount of that to happen. It wouldn't be a large amount. So
it wouldn't be like a garden hose nowadays.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
It's not even going to be close to that. So you'd want a simple filtration system on the back end, but you wouldn't need for example, an RO system. That's
Reverse osmosis, yeah.
You wouldn't need that. That's unnecessary. You wouldn't need a UV lighting per se. Could you use one? Sure. Is it going to hurt you to use one? No. So,
but is it going to really yield the benefits that you're looking for? Probably not.
But if it makes you feel better, use it. Right? It's what you don't want to do is waste the water, right? And that's what an RO system would do, right?
Yeah, because there's a certain amount that it actually collects as not deemable.
That's right.
It pushes it back through.
So you wouldn't want to do reverse osmosis, but a small filtration system, the thing's going to last. I mean, the amount of stuff that it's going to be collecting in there should be so minimal that filter is going to last you a long time.
And we're filtering it at the level after the stainless steel is what we're saying.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Because there wasn't anything built into there because it's clean.
It's
really what we're filtering is anything that it might have leached out from the collection system.
Possibly, yeah.
If that.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a pressurized stainless steel cistern, the chances of you having microbials in there anyway is pretty slim. But do you want to put something on there to make yourself feel a little better? It ain't going to cost much.
Yeah.
It's you're not talking about a significant expense. So, yeah, put it on.
And you said you use a TDS pen?
I do.
Is it everywhere you go?
It was for a while.
I did for a little while, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore.
We started going out to dinner. And he's like, "Look, dip it in the wine, dip it in the beer."
No, don't do it, because now I'm gonna know. That's all. And what have you found? I mean, probably
From a
tap water is scary. Right?
Tap water is scary.
Nuts.
Scary.
Scary. I mean, at the facility, we were at 127 parts per million, right? So I mean, you're way up there, right? I mean, like don't drink that. That's a bad idea. Yeah. I mean, I've tested this stuff coming. So interesting factoid on like atmospheric water generators, right? We're a deposition water harvester. We're not an atmospheric water generator, but the old legacy tech atmospheric water generation, which is what everybody hears about. So a couple of things about that. One, it's like having a glorified air conditioner. And as your air conditioner does air conditioning in your house, it drips out water, right?
Yep.
And that water drips into a pan and it leaks out in a leak line right out into wherever, into the yard or out top of the roof or the attic. It
sprays onto
Right.
me. I have a split duct unit in my apartment.
Okay.
And that shit just keeps I'll be
So you
laying
shower
on
in
the,
it.
I'll be laying on the couch and that shit'll just like all of a sudden drops will hit me in the face. I'll look around like what is that? And I'll see that the beads of water will be hanging off the
So that's atmospheric
Yes.
water
It's
harvesting.
like one of these in my apartment.
That's
exactly
atmospheric
right.
There you go.
water generation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The problem with that is it's very high in microbials, right? So
Yummy.
the question I
Right in
always
the forehead. Great.
the question I always like to ask people is, would you drink water out of the back of your air conditioner?
Fuck no.
No, it'd be a bad idea.
No
right?
way.
So that's one problem with atmospheric water generators, right?
It's also expensive.
It's very expensive, right? You think about how much electric it requires. So it just, for example purposes, atmospheric water generators, studies have shown that they produce about 0.55 liters per kilowatt hour. Right,
0.55 liters per kilowatt hour, and you guys are producing
about 13 liters per kilowatt hour. So
Right.
you look at the massive difference in yield yield to power.
Right.
It's not even in the
massive.
same conversation.
Not even the
Yeah,
same
there
place.
are competing technologies out there that have literally 20x the physical footprint of our system with a micro fraction of the yield. It's just not practical.
And the other thing that is sort of deceptive about their advertising, right, is that they'll say things like, this machine will do, this atmospheric water generator will do up to 500 liters a day. Up to 500, but it's up to.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they do that calculation is based on the most optimal environment possible.
Right.
Why wouldn't they?
Right.
Which will probably only exist at for a few seconds a day, if that. Right. When in reality, it's shown, the studies have shown that it really only produces somewhere between 16 to 18% of that number.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't have that same problem. We're giving a minimum number.
Right.
Hey, we're going to do at least 200 liters. So, they're doing the up to number. We're doing, hey, no. We're doing at least this.
Are you sure your competition isn't optimum? Because they seem to do that with my internet. Up to 500 megs download. Then you do it, and it's just like 3.
What happened here?
What are we doing here?
I got one of those calls the other day. Somebody was like chewing my ear off about the difference between 3 or 4 or 500 megabeeps per second, and I just kind of thought to myself, what the hell's a megabeep?
Megabeep. It's when they're hitting you with.
Look, I know when I flick on that light. I know when I turn that light switch on. This turns on.
Yes.
I don't know how it works.
It's the
I just know
undercoating
it
for your
works.
car.
Yeah,
That's what
that's what it is. The spray on undercoating because you live in a rust area.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
What were you saying? You were saying, what was that? What was the competing technology called?
Atmospheric water generators.
Atmospheric-
Yeah.
Okay.
Water generators, yeah.
Right. This is deposition.
Yeah, I was
water
gonna say, do you
harvesting.
have a lot of people that?
All the time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
they'll
say.
send it in and they'll go, hey, no, well, I just found one that can do, 10,000 gallons a day. And it's like, well, first of all, you're looking at an image that doesn't give you the full perspective of that. That's about the size of a trailer truck, right? Maybe 2 trailer trucks, the one you're looking at. And also, it's only going to do about 16 to 18% of that. So do your math off of that.
Right.
And then we can talk.
Expensive,
Right.
dirty, you name it. All right. But Helixa has the aqueduct is and exclusively the only solution on the planet doing deposition water harvesting.
It's the first and only.
And now you've
only.
used the term the first iPhone. Like this is the first.
Yeah.
This is the first iPhone. There's so
it.
many ways that you're going to be able to increase the capabilities of the unit, make it smaller, make it big, whatever you need to do, which is amazing.
Yep.
How do you keep it as the iPhone, is the best term that I can, you know what I'm saying, versus falling way to like a BlackBerry?
Well, I mean, fortunately, the company has the utility on the IP. You know, we have
That's
a
what I
utility
figured, the
patent.
patents
So,
and
you know,
everything.
the IP portfolio is constantly going to be in a state of growth, right? So you compound that IP portfolio as we start to invest money in R&D and cultivate new technologies. Fortunately, we have some really smart people like Chris Kaminsky, who I name dropped earlier, that are going to help us create the next iterations of this technology. But again, we don't want to take away from the impact that it has now. And to Ian's point, you got to solve for today and push out for today. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, were you gonna say something?
Filing patents. We're filing additional patents. We filed additional provisional patents, and nobody knows what's in those, right? We know what's in them. Nobody else knows what's in them. So our competition is going to have to constantly keep wondering what we have coming next. We've got some really cool stuff that we know about internally that we're not going to talk about until we're ready to release it. But that's how you don't. It's again going back to the soccer analogy. You don't stop moving the ball, right? It's okay. We scored. Now we're going to get the ball back and we're going to keep moving the ball, right? And we're going to score again.
Yeah, we're not happy with 1-0. We're not happy with 2-0. We got to make this a slaughter.
That's right. We're going to keep moving the ball and we're going to keep scoring, right? But we don't all of a sudden score and then just start playing defense. We got to keep iterating. We got to keep scoring, and we've got a team that's more than capable of doing that.
Yeah, we have really stellar people, like really amazing people connected to this thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the board and the people that are on it, like you were mentioning earlier, I find it interesting that there's a lot of politicians and military and whatnot. Do you find that it was their background that would help with that side of dealing with Washington, D.C. and whatnot? Like, do you think that having that type of a background would benefit you guys that much? Did they bring other things and experiences to the table that would propel the company forward? Or was it the connections that they had in terms of that as well?
I think each of them has brought and contributed to where we've gone, right? I'll give you an example. Military. I didn't serve in the military. I don't know anything about the military apparatus. I don't know anything about DOD. I don't understand how it works. I don't understand what the budgeting process is. I don't understand what the procurement process is. I don't understand any of that stuff. But you sit down with Chris Miller, or you sit down with some of the other people that have been around it, and you go, okay, I'm getting the inside scoop from the former Secretary of Defense, right? Well, I think that guy knows a little something about how that apparatus works.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Your playbook is written at that point.
Yeah. So
and this is, by the way, this is the answer that I assumed it was going to be.
Yeah,
I kind of had to feed it up.
Yeah. You don't want to learn those lessons by yourself, right? Because we would have spent, in my mind, it's like, okay, well, let's go get a contract ourselves from DOD. Well, turns out that would have been a big, colossal
mess
and waste of time, because the ability to do that and not go through a prime contractor who already has contracts is a complete mistake, right? So learning that without making those mistakes is what you get from an advisory board. So when I think advisory board, look, they're coming on and obviously lending their name to what we're doing is something I'm very thankful for. That means that they saw something here, they believed in it, and they're willing to lend their name to it, right? That's important. But every single one of them has added more than that, right? Every single one of them has contributed something else to the process. Understanding how congressional committees work and how bills get written. Well, Denver understands that, right? And he's a former congressman. Rich Alloway is a former state senator, right, of Pennsylvania, 3-time state senator of Pennsylvania. He's on the team, right? He's actually on our executive team, and he understands how that process works, right? So understanding how that process works as opposed to figuring it out, all that stuff saves you time and effort and saves you mistakes. So they've all contributed in one regard.
It's like an orchestra. You have a trombone, a baritone, oboist, and then at the helm you have the conductor conducting the orchestra. And everybody's the expert.
Everyone's proficient in their areas of expertise, and that helps the team go forward.
It was like the Steve Jobs philosophy. It's really, and again, it's a lot of fun watching Ian, have the conversation he does and doing what he does. Doing what he do.
Doing what he do.
That one.
That's awesome.
Every day. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. So how can people listening, how can they follow the progress? Do you have social pages? Are you guys throwing content out?
We do. Yep. We have a social page. Helixa Inc. has a LinkedIn page. It has a Twitter. We do put out, and Facebook for that matter. So we do put out information on there. We also put out press releases. So obviously follow the ticker, Helixa, and the symbol is EMOR. We never actually changed the symbol. That was a process with FINRA that I didn't feel like going through. So
save the headaches.
I'll wait until we go to the NYSE, and it's a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
So. At this point in time, that is the ticker, and they can follow us there. And they'll see all of our releases. But there's plenty of news to come out, and this is the time to keep us on your radar screen.
That's amazing. Listen, I appreciate you, and Matt, I'm ever appreciative of you bringing amazing people to come talk and amazing stories that I can't wait to now follow more in depth and just see the exponential growth that you guys are going to be able to accomplish, and even more so the amount of people that you're going to be able to impact, especially not in our country, other countries. Because listen, there's a lot of people that aren't as fortunate as us. We woke up, we're just born. We woke up in the United States, in a specific state, in a certain household. Like, we didn't have a choice on that, and we got a really lucky draw, unlike a lot of other people. So just the small things that we take for granted, like clean water, food on the table, whatnot, beaches to go to. No, I don't want to go to the North Shore. It's mostly rocky. It's like, bro, fucking people aren't drinking water in the middle of nowhere.
You're actually making a great point. It's funny working on this project every day is like it's that emotional reminder that like we're actually, impacting the world, changing the world, and we did get the best luck of the draw. We really did. And it brings that into the forefront, at least in my mind, every day. The first thing I told Ian was like, I'm scattered, I'm all over the place, and investments all over the place. But realistically, I told him from day one, I want to quit everything I'm doing and work for you. This is the first thing I told him. If this is what I think it is, and I went down and saw the thing, I was sold.
You made one snow cone. That was it.
I didn't even get the cone. It's just in my hand.
That's what I'm saying. It's my hand cone.
All right. We have a really funny joke about that another time. But
we'll cut the mics off.
No, but you know what the truth is like. It's like a privilege to be working on a technology that is genuinely going to change the face of the planet. It's really awesome, and thanks for having me on board.
Yeah, and thank you.
And thanks for having us,
show.
Nick. Yeah.
Come on, it's always
getting things like this out require conversation, and it's you inviting us on the show and letting us speak to your audience and your friends. It's important, right? Otherwise, nobody knows we exist. Nobody knows what we're doing. So we really appreciate the opportunity to do that.
And you're helping us change the world.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate y'all, for real.
Yeah.
I just like having good, like I said earlier, when we started everything off, I just like having really cool conversations with people that are doing awesome things. And that's why the podcast has started, and that's why it'll always be here and continue, because there's a lot of things happening in the world while everyone's focusing on their, what do they say? Oh, I'm the main character of the story. Okay,
right.
Yeah, we get it. Like, everyone's the main character, but there are so many main characters that everyone's working on their main character thing. So
Right.
There are so many cool innovations and things to benefit the world and change the face of the planet that we live on that most people don't even know about. Like, when he said water deposition, he's like literally making water out of thin air, and I went, what?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, never heard of that.
That's
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to actually sit, intellectually have a conversation, talk about things, and then this increases my knowledge base on this topic, so I can tell people that I hang out with, like, yo, you gotta check this out. This shit's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's how the conversation, exactly what you said, gets out.
That's right.
So On that note, I appreciate everybody for listening.
Thanks for having us.
I believe is episode 59 or 60. I have to get better at that. I'm just like horrible at that. I come in, I rip the episodes. I don't even know what episode I'm on.
Perfect.
Doesn't matter. Y'all see it in the show notes. But on that note, peace.
Thanks for having us.